When you mention the name Mickey Mantle, what do you think of? You think of the New York Yankees. You think of center field. You think of world championships. You think of the iconic number seven. You think of the greatest switch hitter in the history of baseball. I called him my boyhood idol. Our special guest just called him Dad. Let's welcome in Danny Mantle. Danny, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me, Mike. It's great to be here.
It's been 69 years since the Triple Crown season, over 70 plus years since your dad played baseball. He's as popular now as ever. When you think about his trading card, 1952 trading card, a couple of years ago, it sold for $12.6 million dollars. If you had to put your finger on the popularity and the love affair with Mickey, how would you sum it up?
Well, Mike, it's honestly just such a an honor for his family. I mean, I can only imagine how he would feel. I can remember when the card that sold for the 12.6 sold for 50,000. We were sitting at his restaurant in New York. And someone came in and said, "Hey, your rookie card just sold for $50,000." Well, can't really say what he said, but he was kind of he was like, "Man, who would pay that for a bubblegum card?" That's what he called them, were bubblegum cards. And so I think he would have some kind of reaction to, especially the way the fans are, and you read so much on him, or I do. I get up and I read the latest news on Mickey Mantle, and it's just amazing to see that after all these years that people are still that enthralled with him, and it's just a very, very big honor.
You know what, Danny? We alluded to it. Some people call it the hobby. So many people love the hobby of collecting baseball cards and memorabilia. What is it about it? That's what we're going to jump into a little bit today. The nostalgia, the childhood memories, tapping into those feelings that bring you back to when you were a little kid. To some, Danny, the hobby is the thrill of the hunt and discovery, the pursuit of the rare and valuable card. We know what ripping is, and with the cards, it's just an amazing phenomenon. What's continued to be with the so-called hobby. Some people invest. Right? They say, I'm going to buy this card now. I'm going to buy a vintage card, an autographed card, and it's only going to go up, up, up in value. Some tie into the social connections of the community. It just brings a feeling of togetherness, a collection of cards, people meeting at a card show. And nowadays, they connect online. And Danny, I've been doing my TV show for 18 years. I'm very, very proud to say that my son Anthony and my son Michael started a business, and it revolves around everything that we're talking about, the social
Yeah.
connecting of the community, etc. And I'm very proud to welcome in my son Michael. Michael, your company's called The Nation. Anthony started it. Anthony, I want you to photobomb me from behind and say hello.
I just want to say one thing. Like, your father is the face of the hobby. When we first got into it in 2022, we went to Atlantic City, was where the National was. Soon as we walk in, your father's rookie card was on one of the pillars. And if you remember, right? The
Yeah.
Mickey Mantle card was on the pillar of when you first walked in, and like, wow. And then, obviously when you first entered the room, the first table there, they had your father's cards. And it's just like incredible to see. He really is the face of it. And I was telling my dad, he's the face of baseball, like still to this day. So it's been unbelievable. It's been a great journey. And all the connections that we've made with people that are into the new prospects, but also the vintage stuff. everyone loves your father. Everyone's looking for his stuff, his autographs, and it's just unbelievable to be a part of this.
I just wanted to say I'm interested um to learn more about your all's business because it's becoming more, the vintage cards will always be there, but you know the the newer things like you guys are doing is really interesting to me because like I said, I'm an old timer, I guess, and to just see that people are so interested in these newer this newer way that collecting is done. So it's very, very something I'm really interested in just getting to know. And because a lot of the guys, you've never heard of, and shoot, we don't know that they may be the next Mickey Mantle. You never know. So it's just something that's very, very interesting to me, and I'm looking forward to finding out more about it. You know.
Yes, like now it seems like, this generation, they like all the prospects and the rookie cards of really like, going back only like 10 years, right? It seems like for whatever reason, the only respect, and I mean that, is for like some of these, prospects now or kids that came into the league from like 2018 on or 2017, Otani years.
Yeah.
Look, the vintage stuff, it's really weird. Like some of these names of these players, you're like, oh my goodness, like people would want this, right? They would want these guys, and they seems that your father is like one of the only people that it's just like anything of your dad. It's just like it's just automatic. Like people just fall out of their chairs.
Yeah.
It just goes to speak the volume of your dad and what he means to baseball. And I would say baseball cards are, definitely trump any other sport in regards to the hobby. I think it's baseball at its own level. So your father is the holy grail of baseball cards through and through.
Yeah, and it's just like I said, it's just so amazing after, it's been so long, even, since he's played even. And but his cards, and it's, that rookie card is just so enormous. I mean, it's known around the world, and to even think that is just amazing to me. And people just love it, and they talk about it all the time. And but like you were saying, as far as what you're doing now, you know you never know who these guys are that are coming up. That I mean, look, Judge is my favorite player right now.
Let me just stop here for a moment because we have so much,
Yeah.
and we have guests that are looking forward to speaking to you. But what I want to do is I want to frame what I'm going to say, and in a context of baseball, we all remember that adage of Memorial Day being not only the unofficial start of summer, but Memorial Day is approximately a third of the season um, under our belt, where people start looking at statistics, they start looking at the standings and taking things seriously. But from the real life element, Memorial Day is a federal holiday where in the U.S., we mourn the U.S. military personnel who died while serving the U.S. Armed Forces. One thing
Exactly.
we all love about baseball, as far back as it goes, it's intertwined with our military. It's intertwined with the American flag. It's the seventh inning stretch that now you have God Bless America. So, Anthony and Michael, I'm so proud of them because one of the things that we're talking about is, and I mentioned in the bullet points of the overview of the aspects of the hobby is social connecting and community. What Michael and Anthony are very proud of is the people that they deal with. And these could be people that they work together with in the business realm. And one of the people that I ask them, let this be our opening guest. And we're going to bring him in. And his name is Bo. He's calling from Georgia. his military background, 3 deployments, 1 in Iraq, 2 in Afghanistan. And we want to welcome in Bo. And Bo, truly, from bottom of my heart, thank you for your service and your sacrifice. Say hello to Danny Mantle.
Well, Bo, I want to say first, thank you for your service. That's a great thing, and I hear that a lot more and more, and it really makes us all feel great to know that. So really, thank you very much.
Danny, great to meet you. I am totally humbled. I was talking earlier, like a lot of people don't understand like the generational difference in World War II and the Korean War and like what the MLB players of the time did. I mean, a lot of people don't understand that your pops, like, and I'm a big vintage guy. Like, I think Anthony and the guys, they make a little fun of me. They're like, oh, they're not going to buy all this vintage because, I mean, a lot of people don't. It's like you said, they do the prospects. But I love history. And, like, one of the things, 2 of the people that I think were pretty cool to read about and to learn, one of them was your pops. And even though he had the leg injury, it's kind of like Captain America. He didn't just, get denied once. He tried to go back, I think, I was reading 4 or 5 times. Like he wanted to go serve for his country. And it's not that I don't think the people today will, but it's the humbleness of the generational of those athletes and those heroes that make the game so great today. And your pops was one of them for sure.
And Dad used to get.
I feel like a family with the Georgia thing too. So
yeah. Well, I was going to say Dad used to get grief, because they called him a draft dodger, and he was like, "Look, I've done everything I can to get in," and there's plenty of documentation of him, being at the place, and he definitely tried his way, because a lot of his teammates were in the service. And so, one of the ones that comes up in my mind is Ted Williams. I mean, I love that photo of him standing on his plane, man. That thing shot to hell. And that guy was something else, man.
I actually bought a card off the Nation, off the guys that remake, but it has like some of his, I guess it would be his flak vest or his flight suit material cut into it.
Yeah.
Pretty epic.
Yeah.
Is mine forever.
Oh yeah.
But
yeah.
Wow. I'm very, very humbled right now. When they told me Danny Mantle, I'm like, holy cow, this is like a president celebrity coming on here.
Oh, no, not me. But, I really appreciate that. And like I said, for Dad to still be thought of for so long, it's something incredible, and
Bo, I just want to mention to Bo, I have a tie-in both with Mickey Mantle and, you're an Atlanta Braves fan. And in the early 90s, mid 90s, up through 2000, I never really liked him or appreciated him because he was an adversary. But Chipper Jones, there's a tie-in because Chipper Jones' dad idolized Mickey Mantle.
right.
And let me tell our viewers, just go take a look at Chipper Jones's lifetime statistics. Jaw-dropping. His slash lines, 300, 400, 500. I'm rounding, but batting average, on base, and slug, 3, 4, 5. It is incredible. And in my opinion, he is Mickey's number 1 in terms of switch hitters all time. Let me tell you, right behind him, Chipper Jones is, in my opinion, number 2. Bo, your thoughts?
I actually love Chipper, and I agree. I didn't know how much time I had, but I wanted to talk about that too. Like, there actually are some live interviews you can Google that he talked about Mantle, but I think a lot of things too, his humbleness and Mantle about how they stayed with the same team their entire career speaks volume too. I mean, think of that comparison. Not that you really can, but switch hitters, you stay with your same home team the entire time. It's pretty amazing. It just doesn't happen as long as the longevity doesn't either. I mean, Mantle 18 years. I think Chipper played 16 or 15, something like that. So I mean,
Yeah.
it was
Well, when I think of switch hitters, I mean, Chipper Jones is right up there at the top, and he was just and like you said, he mentioned dad a lot, and I know, his dad was a huge Mickey guy.
I
And
hate to read off of stats because then it gets kind of boring. But since Bo asked, so I'm looking at the actual stats now. He played for 19 seasons, 303 batting average, 401 career on base, 529 slug, 930 OPS for his career. I mean, this he was terrific. And he played the
what
game the
were
right way
what
and
was
old
his
school.
homers? How many,
Excuse
he
me?
had like 490. What was his home runs? 490.
468.
Oh,
468.
468. Okay.
468.
Yeah. I knew he wasn't off much from five, but
Yeah.
boy, he was a hell of a player, I can tell you that.
You
And
know, Danny, when I was
actually Dad had met Chipper before, so that was a good thing. So I think they had met at a card show or something, and you know, if I remember right, Chipper was talking about how it was, such a yeah, it was kind of freaked out because all his dad had ever talked about was Mickey Mantle, and so he grew up, you know, I don't know if that's why he was a switch hitter or not, but he had plenty of, his dad was very instrumental, just like my dad's dad, you know, and that just shows you, the fathers, they're the ones who make sure their kids are who they are.
well, Bo, want to thank you for batting leadoff, and just want to give you the last word, closing comment to Danny, if you will.
Danny, I just want to say thanks for hanging out. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to meet you. And I just want to say, loved your dad. Loved the history of your dad. Loved the strength and like the durability. I love that what he did for the game. And I want to say thank you to those that paid the ultimate sacrifice. And God bless America.
Yeah.
God,
Thank you very much, Bo.
God bless you, Bo. Thank you for your service and your sacrifice. We'll have you on again. Did you enjoy being on?
Awesome. Wow. I
We're gonna
feel like a star right now. I don't deserve it, but thank
we
you.
got we got more we got better more down the road, and look forward to having you on again.
Yes, sir. See
Thank you.
Take
y'all guys.
care, Bo,
Thank
and
you.
thank you for your service.
God bless
Thank
you.
you. See ya.
All right. All right. So he's been waiting for a long time, but so we're going to go over to Alan Olson. So Alan is calling in from Louisiana, New Orleans, Louisiana. And of all of the guests calling in, he actually saw Mickey in person. So as he's connecting, give Danny an opportunity to catch. Yeah, you could tell Chris to call in Chris or Jay actually, or however you Chris. Okay, all right. So this is why we're not live. This is why we could do some post editing.
There you
Michael,
go.
what'd you think of Bo?
I thought he did great. I mean, and I think Danny and Bo hit it off. I think that it was a lot. There was a lot to talk about there. And yeah, Bo, I'll tell you, Danny, he loves your father, and he does love the vintage stuff, man.
Tell
So anytime that we get the
tell
vintage, he's always
Alan,
all in.
he's kind of on, but we can't see or
He's
hear him.
been Bo has been following us probably for the last 5 months, and he's been so into it that he actually flew up here, came to my house, and ran a show live from my house for like a couple of days. He stayed on Staten Island, so great guy, man. He's
Oh man, he seems like a really good guy, and all the vets are so humble, and they're just good people, man. My brother David is very involved with the vets, and he does a lot of things, you know, as far as like when
Okay,
yeah,
good.
wounded warriors and all that
All right.
type of thing. He's just very involved in it, and that means a lot to him
yeah,
and
no,
us.
Oh, I got.
it's yeah. I mean, it really is. It's And that's the good thing about that is like, I think the whole community rallies around that too. Like, for example, if you ever joined, like you'd see that there's a lot of people that feel the same way. It's about giving back, Tunnel for Towers, Wounded Warriors. There's a lot of people that are out here doing the right thing. So, I mean, it's good to be not only be what we've made, but also to have great people like Bo involved in, and
Yeah.
it's really
And
special.
just like Bo, and we're talking about great people, we have our next guest, and it's Chris.
Yeah, Chris from Chicago. I've really glad that you guys invited me to be here. I think I can probably bridge the gap between you guys because uh, I'm a child of more of the late '70s, early '80s Yankees. Kind of starting in the Reggie Jackson, um, through to the Don Mattingly years. So I think I kind of bridged the gap between you and Mike and Ant.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, Thurman Munson was one of my heroes and he was always just something else. Those guys, those teams from that era were really good too. Thurman Munson was something great, to me, and he was such a nice guy. And I don't know Reggie well, but Mattingly and my dad were really close, and back in those days, of course, Billy was managing. It was funny because Dad, he used to go down to spring training for batting coach. And so, Dad used to really love and, he enjoyed that. And because, he'd only been out of baseball probably, I don't know, 7 or 8 years or something. So it was still meant a lot to him just to be involved with the guys, especially, I think him and Thurman hit it off quite a bit, and they were just
Uh,
very close. So it was nice.
Thurman was my idol.
Yeah.
That's what I grew up in my playing days as a catcher. So he was my idol. And
Yeah.
you can imagine. And here's my story of becoming a Yankees fan. I imagine I think you guys, everybody here can appreciate this. I was 5 years old growing up in northern New Jersey, and it just finished the first year of T-ball. So you're like, it's the first sport you ever played, and you're all into baseball. And then that September, you watch Chris Chambliss hit a walk-off home run against the Royals in the playoffs. To and the stadium goes crazy. They mob the field. They're tearing up the grass. Everything, and you're like, this is it. From now on, I am a Yankees fan. And then I had my 5-year-old heart broken when they got swept by the Big Red Machine. But 77 and 78 were some of the greatest baseball years that I can remember.
Oh yeah. And like I mentioned, Billy Martin, he was such a huge part of that. And Billy was, he just wanted to be a Yankee and that was it, and he was the perfect manager, and how he's not in the Hall of Fame is something I'll never know, but I'm sure he'll get there someday.
Yeah, the Veterans Committee has got to let him in at some point in time. I don't know. I mean, I don't know Billy personally, but you know the personality and you know the stories. There may be something in the background somewhere, but I think the Veterans Committee will eventually get him in. It's only right.
Oh, they've got to. I mean, because, not to take anything away from any managers, but I mean, Billy's resume is as good as anybody's and or better. And so I really think, there's got to be a time coming up where he's going to be put in there. So,
Chris, what you said, I have so much to comment off of because you really struck a chord with me and with the memories that you just said. But let me just take a moment, if we can, and I'm going to ask Michael from the Nation, my son Michael, to jump in. And I know he speaks very highly of you, Chris. So, Michael, it's good to have Chris aboard right now, correct?
CMC, as we call him CMC, right? He is a day one pioneer with the Nation. He is a cornerstone. We love him, and he's also the he's the fount of information. So anytime that we have questions about prospects or we have questions about, like who's playing well, what's going on, this guy Chris is the guy that we speak to, and he's with us all the time. And I'll tell you what, I mean, the nation is really what it is because of people like him and Jay and Bo. Because without them, I mean, it's really, it's like a family, it's a community. So we're really appreciative to have Chris with us all the time. And he always gets good deals with us too. He's always
That's for sure. That's for sure. But I was excited to come on, believe it or not, Mike, because when at one point in time, me and Nick got pretty close, and at one point in time, he sent me over an article that you wrote for Yes when Max Fried was signed, and as I said, I grew up in my playing days as a catcher, so when I'm watching a game, I'm very much kind of watching the like the cat and mouse game between the pitcher and the catcher. And I think the way the pitching approaches nowadays from when I was playing are completely different now. It's no more establish the outside corner, keep peppering the outside corner. When a guy leans over, you brush him back inside. And I think nowadays you hear a lot of talk about you know how you attack, how pitchers attack hitters, and hitting boils down to two things: timing and getting the barrel of the ball on it. So I think now you only hear about velocity and spin rates, but I
Yeah.
think I think that article you actually kind of struck a chord with me because you hit kind of like the third component on there, which is changing speeds, and you wrote about the velocity separation between Max Fried's fastball and his secondary pitches, and that's kind of like the things that I look at when I watch a game.
Chris, thank you so much for saying that. And I really appreciate that. And, I'm proud of that column. And if you think about it, it's really playing out because it's not only what Max Fried is doing on the mound every fifth day when he toes the rubber, but others are emulating him, and others, including the New York Yankee, the brass and management, they are seeing how important it is to change speeds. They're seeing all of this, and now you see a trickle down effect. You see a guy like Carlos Rodon, who was fastball slider, and he learned the hard way. And unfortunately, we learned the hard way because in the World Series last year, he didn't mix his pitches, and you saw what happened. But now you're seeing it with him. You're seeing it with some of these young pitchers, and up and down the line, they're all realizing the importance of the good old fashioned curveball because it's the slowest pitch in an arsenal, etc. So, I thank you for saying that because I could tell just from the brief minutes that we're talking, I could tell how astute you are. So I appreciate you mentioning that
Yeah,
about my column.
it's yeah, it's still no matter what, particularly probably even more so in this era of everybody throwing 96, 97, 98. The plus changeup is still the best pitch in baseball.
Yeah.
Period. And the Cubs, you saw that for the last couple of years. You're kind of seeing the benefits of it now from the Cubs this year. They did the same thing that the Yankees were doing, and they stayed away. You could see the pitchers that they signed, which they had Justin Steele, and they had Shota Imanaga, and Kyle Hendricks was very successful for years, and now they've signed guys like Jamison Tyon. These are not hard throwers; these are just guys who know how to pitch, change speeds, hit locations, and then they put a whole team of Gold Glovers behind them.
Yeah.
The offense is catching up this year, but it's the similar approach. They've taken the similar approach that the Yankees have taken now, that everybody sees 97, 98 all the time. When you get guys who can change speed and throw a little softer, that's actually a change of pace that guys don't know how to adjust to anymore.
Yeah.
Well said.
Well, see, and I'm one of the people too that, when Mike does one of his articles, I mean, along with his family, right? I mean, we all say the same thing to him. I mean, because, I'm old school, and, I get a lot of what he's saying, and, I don't know, it's so good to see and refreshing to see someone write about that, because it keeps the game real, and for us anyway, for the older guys, I guess. I don't really get a lot of the things that go on now. You know, like I still have a trouble with the war and stuff. I still think, what do you mean? I mean, I thought everybody goes by, average and, RBIs and
Yeah.
like that. And I don't get the whole war thing and all that, but that's things evolve and all that. But I just love Mike's, when he writes from the heart, and that's what he means. So
Danny, thank you for that. That means the world to me. And speaking about from the heart, Chris, you touched me and touched the chord my heart because you mentioned ripping up the side at Yankee Stadium, and you mentioned Chambliss. Now that was '76. I was a lot at
76.
yeah, I was at that game, and I was at the '76 World Series Game 3. I think, Chris, it was the coldest I ever was at a sporting event, and that includes football games. I mean, not only did we lose, but I mean, the temperature was in the high 30s, and I wasn't dressed appropriately. But I got to celebrate in '77. I was at the game when Reggie hit the 3 home runs, and I was one of those nut jobs running on the field like a lunatic, and I grabbed a piece of sod, I rolled it up, and I put it in my snow parker, and I went home, and my mother said, "What the heck is that?" I go, "Ma, Yankee Stadium grass." She goes, "What are we gonna
They
do
were
with that?" I said,
they
"I'm
were tearing
planting."
seats out. Everybody needed
I
a piece of
bet.
it. We
Yeah.
had a little bit of that. We had I got to kind of replay it not too long ago with my own kids. I live here in Chicago. I live about a 10-12 minute walk from Wrigley Field. And that's the background of it's me. That's a picture that I took during the playoffs
A great photo.
At Wrigley during the
Yeah.
2016 playoffs. And we got to relive it a little bit. We didn't get to go on the field, but the day when the Cubs won the World Series in 2016, the entire neighborhood got out of their houses and they sprinted to Wrigley Field, and I got videos on my phone and things of the
Yeah.
kids and the whole neighborhood just dancing and screaming and yelling. It kind of reminded me a little bit of that, a little bit more civil these
Yeah.
days, but
No, it's so cool because, Wrigley, Fenway, I guess they're the last really ballparks from from our, from the
from that
beginning.
era, yeah.
And so, I had been to Wrigley, but yeah, it's been so long. I was still a teenager, I think, but it's just cool to know that I've been there. And we went, I don't know, 5 years ago to Fenway, and that was my first time to Fenway, believe it or not. And man, it was such a neat place to go, because everything's still the same. And we went on the tour of all the, you saw all the pictures of Ted and all the guys, Ruth, people from that started there, and it was
Yeah, and
just, you know,
they've been modernized. I think at least here at Wrigley, and I've been to Fenway as well too. I think they did an excellent job with the modernization of keeping like the old charms of the
yeah,
stadium and
yeah,
keeping it kind of intact
yeah,
without ruining it.
yeah, and of course, us older guys, we still wish the real Yankee Stadium was there, but it was probably, I guess it wasn't in real good shape and all that. So, they had spent quite a bit just refurbishing it, and I guess it was time you know, to make a new one. So, um, you know, it's still a lot different to us. It's-
Yeah, yeah, no doubt,
yeah.
no doubt.
So,
I,
Chris, you have good taste
I
in
think
base.
The Wrigley reno Yeah, yeah, exactly. I've been very, very fortunate, and I have also been in a situation where I'm still a diehard Yankee fan. I've lived in Chicago for almost 30 years now. So I've lived next to Wrigley for 25. So I'm
yeah.
a Cubs fan. I got my National League team with the Cubs, and I got my American League team with the
All right.
Yankees. And in my life, I swear there's going to be a day somewhere where they're going to play. They're going to play for it all, and
Oh,
I'm going to have to make a decision
yeah.
about who I root for.
Well,
Yeah.
let's make it
Yeah,
this
that'll be a
year,
hard one.
right? Let's make it this year. Why not? Right? You got a good team. You got a good squad. You
Yeah.
got Kyle Tucker,
I was gonna say.
and and on and on. So just as you said, Chris, it's been
And
an
PCA has been
Yeah,
incredible.
it may
PC,
happen. You never know.
PCA. I
Yeah.
think you got him from the Met organization, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm
For
sure they're
Javi
kicking
Baez.
themselves.
Mhm.
Is that true? Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, they are kicking themselves. But you know what, Chris? It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. We want to thank you so much for
Oh,
calling in
thanks for
today,
having me.
and we look forward to having you on again.
Yeah, that'll be great, and I look forward to coming and meeting you. I do go back east to visit my family. I'll be back there this summer, and at some point in time, I'll swing by and meet you and the boys.
Wow, that would be awesome. That would be
Chris, it
awesome.
was
All the best. All
We
the
can break bread together
You got it.
sometime.
You got it, Chris.
Chris,
Thank you so
it's been a
much.
pleasure.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Chris.
That was
Pleasure meeting you.
that was fantastic.
You too.
Thank
Thanks,
thank
Will.
you, Chris.
Take care.
Danny, it's funny because when we were talking, I said we'd like to get like 10 people, 12, but we just can't because you see when people get excited, they like to speak to you, they like to, and time flies by. So what we're going to do is we're going to move on to our next guest,
Okay.
and this is someone who actually saw Mickey in person at the stadium. He's a friend of mine. We're going to welcome in Alan from Louisiana, from New Orleans, but he's transplanted. He's a New Jerseyite, right? Alan, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mike. Been down here 5 years now, and it seems like it's home, but New Jersey will always be home.
Yeah.
But this feels like home, but it's
It's
taken a
home,
little.
but not the same, right?
Right. It takes a little getting used to. Now, I love the Yankees, and I love watching some guys from LSU who may become Yankees one day, but because they have a few of those. But yeah, been a Yankee fan all my life, and that's never going to change.
No. No, that's one thing you always see is, I mean, people now that I know that are my age or older,
Mm-hmm.
they're still just die hard, they talk a lot about dad and everything, but it's cool to watch, to listen to him talk about the new guys, and especially Judge, because Judge has a place in my heart, and the guy is something else. I mean, you can't not notice. I mean, so it's just something. It's unbelievable, really. So.
The thing with Judge is exciting thing with him is I'm more excited at him getting hits as opposed to hitting home runs now because he's got 80 hits already, and it's like he's only been up 240 times or something. It's crazy.
I think isn't it only what is it? How many days is it now? Like, shit, it's only 60 days or something.
Yeah.
It's an unbelievable number because of what he's done so far. I mean, it's just, look, I mean, I personally myself, I never want to see anyone beat dad out with the Triple Crown, but I think if anyone has a chance, it's Judge. He's got the shot to do it. And, probably if I had to, he would be the guy that I would rather see do it, I don't want to see anyone do it, but I mean, if I have, then it would be him. I mean, the guy's 6'8", what, 280 or 90 or whatever, man. And he just, I think I've told Mike recently, I said, man, he looks so good this year. And maybe it's just me. I don't know. Maybe I'm noticing more, but he looks just in unbelievable shape. I mean, and to be playing that long,
Alan and Danny, you hit it right on the head, all of your comments. Alan, before I get your personal comments as to your dad taking you to the Yankee game when the Yankees to the old Yankee Stadium when you were a little kid, and you have some personal stories to tell, but just to drill down a little bit to what you guys are talking about, and Alan, you mentioned it. The thing that's really amazing is his batting average. He's flirting with 400 at this point of the season. He's in the high 390s, and he leads by far. I think Freddie Freeman is second in the 360s. So that's in the National League. So the next in I'm looking at the American League. Jake Wilson, a rookie from the A's, is batting 350. So he's got a big lead there. We know about the home runs and the RBI, so he's got a legitimate chance to win the Triple Crown. And if he does, we are really turning back the clock, because next year will mark 70 years of the Triple Crown
Yeah.
that Mickey had, which was one of the
Wow.
greatest seasons ever. Alan, tell us your dad taking you to the game when you were a little kid, and then also your dad had a memory for a lifetime because he was at the game. Don Larson, perfect game, World Series. Tell us about those memories.
Well, when I think I must have been like, I think I was about 8 or 9 years old. And if I was nine, it would have been, let's see, but in 1962, my dad took me. Of course, the first thing about going to Yankee Stadium, you never do a big league ballpark. You're in awe of the surroundings, and you can't believe it. And the funny thing that I noticed was how when guys were warming up, the ease of which they threw the ball, like with no effort, and it went really far. But of course, the greatest thing was to see Mickey Mantle play, because it hurled all about him. And you know, in '61, when he and Roger were going at it, Mickey got hurt after, you know, kind of, it could have been closer at the end. But if you think of '61, in addition to Roger and Mickey, they had four other guys that hit 20 home runs: Elston Howard, Bill Skowron, Yogi, and John Blanchard.
Blanchard, yeah.
It's amazing. But I don't know how long was he out for? Do you remember?
He had, let's see, it happened in September, I believe. So he still had about, and look, Dad, him and Roger were brothers. They loved each other, but
Well, that's great. That's
Dad
what I
wanted
heard.
he wanted to win that so bad. I mean,
Uh,
he never showed it. He always, he was always, and that's what was so great about those teams. Those guys were brothers. I mean, they didn't have any animosity towards either one of them.
mhm.
They would always say, "Well, so and so did this, so and so did that. You need to talk about them." They just
Yeah,
did. They never took it on themselves. In fact, if anything, they took away from themselves.
yeah,
And so, and you don't see a lot of that anymore. But the thing is, those teams were just something else.
yeah,
You
I
know,
mean,
Alan, your dad was in person. He was at the perfect game. And in fact, we were talking about
yeah.
memorabilia before. I think you have a piece of memorabilia. Your dad had the program, and you kept it in the family. So if you'd be good enough, if you could show it to the camera, if you have it available.
Can you see it?
oh
Wow.
yeah,
And
Yeah.
you know, it's
That,
funny. The one thing my dad did, he wrote the date up here. It's 10/8/56, and he's got the attendance 64,519. I don't know if you probably can't see that, but the other funny thing is that under the 1956, he ran into Ed Sullivan, and
oh,
Ed Sullivan signed the program.
what's something else, man? That's cool. Yeah,
So
you'd think it'd be one of the guys, one of the team or something, and you got that.
yeah, well, you know, sitting in the stands, you know, people walking around, you know, especially the World Series, you see all
Of
kinds
course,
of people who are
of course,
famous
there
or
wasn't anybody bigger in those days than Ed Sullivan. I mean, everybody was on his show.
including
yeah,
Mickey Mantle, including Mickey Mantle.
Yeah,
Um,
Dad, Yogi,
he was
Whitey, all of them. Remember the night he had them all on there singing
that
"Take Me Out to the Ballpark" or something? Yeah.
Alan, before we let Danny give the last word on the 56 World Series, because there was a tie in with Mickey in that game, tell us your dad's memory or what he relayed to you, what it felt like being at that game, how tense it must have been as the game went along.
Well, it's funny. It was one of the funny things is the guy he went with. There was somebody else was going to go to the game with this guy, and for some reason he had to cancel. So this guy's a friend of my good friend of my dad. He said, "Well, you want to go to the game?" So my dad went to the game, and I mean, lo and behold, nobody ever thought in wildest dreams that anything like that would happen. I mean, it had to be one of the most exciting games in in baseball history. And Mickey hit a home run that day,
Yeah.
and he made a great catch in left center field towards the end of the game to preserve the perfect game. I mean, and Larson got ahead of everybody. He was ahead in the count. That's what really was one of the earmarks of the game.
Yeah. But that was because Dad would always say, I wasn't really a Willie Mays, or I think he said Joe DiMaggio, somebody, but he said, but that day he said he'd never made a catch like that, and he said that obviously he felt tremendous because it saved the game,
Mm-hmm.
won, and was it Gil Hodges? I think hit
It
the
was Gil
ball.
Hodges hit it. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. You got a good memory.
And
Yep.
Wow.
he said he really hit the shit out of it, and that he said that thing. He said he was amazed he caught it, because it was a backhand. It was a tremendous catch. It was the best catch he ever. So he really enjoyed that, number one, and hitting the home run. Hitting the only home run in the game, which was something else too. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Alan,
He had a.
yeah,
Go ahead.
no,
Go
ahead.
ahead.
You.
He had a lot of his home runs in the World Series were held a record for playoffs for a long time until now. They have so many different it's like for a number of teams in a postseason. Guys get a lot more opportunity, but at the time I think he had 16 or 15 in the World Series.
Well, he holds the record at 18, but
18.
Yeah, and the thing is, what they do now is, Dad and those guys back in that era, they never played in, I call them playoffs, is what they are.
Right. Yeah.
I say playoffs, I don't say postseason, because to me, you're doing playoffs to get to the postseason, which is the World Series.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so, they nowadays, I have no reason, I don't know why they do it, but they combine, playoff home runs with World Series.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind, you can't do that because those guys never played in a playoff.
Right.
They may have had 50 home runs if they had been able to play playoffs.
Yeah.
But, I probably get in trouble for calling them playoffs, but whatever,
It's okay.
Yeah. But that's what it is.
There's so many memories. The tape measure home runs when he hit the facade of above the right field bleachers on the way up. All of those memories that we have. It's hard to even to explain that to the younger generation as to the combination of power and speed that was so rare, and his ability to bunt and his ability to get down the first baseline in 3.1 seconds, which by today's standards is lightning fast. Alan, want to thank you so much for taking a couple of minutes. And in closing, if you had to say one thing to Danny, what would that be?
As I always remember, all the Yankees, Mickey was the one growing up, and still to this day is everybody else ever always talks about Babe Ruth, but Mickey is the one that I always remember and I always will. And your dad, and I enjoyed watching him play, and it was and I remember the Stu Miller home run, number 500. I remember watching that one on TV. I think, I don't know, it went right into right field. He was batting left-handed, but it was
yeah, and he hit it good.
Yeah.
That ball left that stadium pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was funny. I was reading something the other day about that home run because it was the anniversary of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there were several comments of guys saying, "Oh man, it looks like the guy's pitching, you know, uh, like pitching to the guy, like
Yeah.
he wasn't." And I'm thinking, well, the guys today are so much bigger, but
Mm.
I guess hitting a ball that's coming at 80 rather than 95 or whatever, probably not much different. So,
Right.
you're still hitting something. So, but Dad hit, in my mind, probably the longest home runs ever, and
Yeah.
I'm uh, I'm very proud of him for that.
Oh
And
yeah.
you,
He hit some real and the 500-foot jobs.
Yeah, yeah, and you hear a lot of things, or I do lately, about things like that. And I saw an article the other day. It was Bob Gibson because he
Mm-hmm.
threw Dad the 18th home run of the World
Okay.
Series. That um why he holds the record. But it was so good of Bob to say. He said, he'd heard that Mickey had lost a step and wasn't the guy he used to be. He said, he'd hit something off him in the third game. He said, well, when he hit that last one, he said he found out exactly how good he was. He said because he hadn't lost a step at all.
Yeah. That's
The
true.
64 series.
Yeah.
So that was
That's the
his.
one they lost, but I remember that was sort of the peak of the Yankees, and then it started going the other way.
South. Yeah, it went south after that. So, but Dad, he just couldn't run. He couldn't run anymore.
No, I know.
He said he still had power. He just couldn't, his legs were so bad he couldn't run and he couldn't, take some legs to hit
Sure.
something. So, but he certainly enjoyed it and he loved his teammates, that's for sure.
well,
So,
That's great.
Alan, you mentioned the home run number 500. That was on Mother's Day, and just like you, I was watching on my little black and white TV, and that number
Yeah.
seven, his back was so big, the number seven took up the whole picture screen. I don't know, maybe I had a small
Right.
screen, but that number seven took up the whole thing. So, Alan, I want
That's
to
right.
thank you. We got some other people calling in, and they're kind of backed up for time because
Okay.
basically it's just like this when we speak and we speak from the heart, time flies. But I want to say in closing one thing. You're a coworker of mine. You've been a coworker of mine for over 27 years. I hold you in the highest regard. I thank you for taking some time to call in today. And also, I want you to say hello to your son, Tim Olson, if you will. We're very proud of him. You're down in Louisiana because your son Tim is an executive for Shell Oil. He's an analyst for Shell Oil, and he said, "Dad, come on down." And basically, that's why you're down there. So you got your grandchildren, you got a beautiful life. You have your daughter down there too. So we're very very happy for you. But you still have Yankees in New York and New Jersey in your heart. So Alan, thank you so much for taking a few minutes, and we really appreciate it. We're going to do it again.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mike. Danny, thank you very much.
hey, thank you
Nice,
very much. It was a
nice speaking
pleasure
with you.
talking with you.
Pleasure
Thank,
talking with you.
thank you, Alan.
Take
Okay.
care.
All right.
All
Take
right.
care.
Speak soon.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Danny, I want to mention that I remember when we were watching, who was it? Josh Hamilton playing in the All-Star game and then also in the Home Run Derby
Yeah.
at Yankee Stadium. That was probably one of the best memories that I had where my father would say it kind of reminded him of your dad.
Yeah.
And he was going for the hits, like he was going for the home runs, like trying to really make tape measure shots. And I remember my dad telling me that your dad, I think, did he hit it out of the ballpark or hit it like towards the train, Dad? I just wanted to make sure I was clear on that story. right? That Mickey Mantle actually hit the ball and it might have hit like the overpass or like where the train was going. Is that right?
No,
Somewhere?
actually, Dad hit the ball almost out of Yankee Stadium twice. He
Wow.
did it in 56 and then he did it in 63. And I think, we'll never know, unfortunately, what they would have done had they not hit the upper facade. But I
Yeah.
don't know that anybody's come that close to doing that now. I mean, I don't know. So
Yeah.
it's a shame. So
I know.
Danny, when we talked about doing this show, we had 20 people that we could have had on. I said we have to limit it because of the fact that everybody, wants to get a chance to speak, and we're excited about having our next guest caller in. And Michael, this is someone that you know. His name is Jay, and he's from Maryland. So, Michael, why don't you introduce Jay, if you will?
Another cornerstone to the nation. Okay. We had Chris join, CMC as we like to call him. This is Jay, a pillar to the nation. Literally, Danny, Dad, a day one with us. Great guy. Another one, fountain of knowledge, loves the game, big Orioles fan, and like just through and through has always been with us, so supportive. And honestly, just someone that controls the room, more or less, kind of keeps everything in check. And we appreciate him. We love him. So, Jay, thanks for joining us today, man.
Jay, again, welcome to the show. Michael and Anthony speak very highly of you. We thank you for joining us. Say hello to Danny
Cool.
Mantle, if you will.
How you
hello,
doing, Danny?
how are you tonight?
Great. I'm doing great. How are you?
Good to see you.
You too, man. Pleasure to meet you.
Well,
It's an
thank
honor.
you. Pleasure to meet you.
Jay, you're a Baltimore Oriole fan, and my question to you is: were you as shocked as I was in the off season that you did not retain and sign as free agents Corbin Burns and even Santander to a degree? He was like a little bit of a backbone of that team with a young group.
Uh, I I wasn't so surprised about Burns. There was always the rumors he wanted to go back to Arizona or at least, West Coast to be with family, closer to family, stuff like that. So we made him a decent offer. We didn't lowball. So I at least give him some credit on Burns. Santander, I 100% agree. I think that's kind of some of the leadership that we're missing right now. As we're just floundering. So, uh, when at least kind of your leader, you know, because I don't think Cedric's not that like that rah rah guy in the clubhouse, and I don't really think we have one of those at the moment.
Jay, you just hit on something. When you think about Mickey Mantle, we all know the statistics. We know the 536 home runs. We know the way he was idolized by the fans. But you just touched on something with Santander. He was a leader in the clubhouse. Danny, what makes Mickey larger than life, as much as he was respected and idolized by the fans, he was even more respected by his teammates because of the way he played the game, the way he played hurt. Could you speak about that for a moment, if you will, Danny?
Well, Dad was the type of guy because we'd had several conversations, because people would always say, "Well, how would you have play? How did you play through so and so injury or this or that?" And he said, "Because back then you played year to year." And he said, "It didn't matter who you were." He said, if you weren't giving it your all." They'll get rid of you. So it didn't matter who you were. But those guys had so much brotherly love for each other. I think they did that so, and they all played hurt. It wasn't just Dad, they all gave their share. And Dad was, the thing I find very interesting is we had done some things, some interviews of people that were opponents of theirs, pitchers, other guys from other teams. And the thing that amazes me about my dad is the opponents thought the same way as his teammates did. They were all, there were guys talking about how they were out in the outfield crying, on dad's last day at that certain stadium. That was just, and that's something, if you think about it, that I don't know if that happens anymore or not, but he just had so much respect from just other players from opponents that he was playing against, and that says a lot. And I don't know if Dad holds the record for least hits, at least being hit than anybody because everyone loved him so much. He didn't show people up when he'd hit a homer or something, and the pitchers all loved him. And you know, I don't know if it seems to me like a 12 sticks in my mind about a pitcher hitting him, and he just there was just something to him that he was just a nice guy, and he was that way with people he played against, like him and Drysdale were best friends, and Drysdale would come up to him at the World Series, hit him in the side or something, said, "Where do you want it today?" And stuff like that. And so they just, they all had fun like that. And it's just they just had so much fun back then, and so I just wanted to say that.
Jay, you're into the vintage cards, et cetera, but just, and I'll let you take it from there. But just thinking of what Danny just said, that they literally went year to year, you could get a chuckle out of the fact that the year after Mickey had his Triple Crown year in 56, 57 was a good year, was probably the best, maybe even a better year. And he's negotiating his contract. Well, it wasn't Triple Crown. Like, to think about what you just said, the offer that they made to Burns, long-term deal, hundreds of millions of dollars. Jay, just give us your perspective, if you will, and then also your interest in vintage cards, please.
Sure, sure. Back to kind of what Danny was saying, the difference I see today is, back when Mickey was playing and Drysdale and those guys, they were playing more because they just loved to play baseball. And I'm not saying the guys today don't love to play baseball, but they're all chasing a big bag of money also. And I feel like there's different motives or different motivations um, today than there was in decades past, as the salaries have went up. So it's kind of my opinion on that. But from a Baltimore perspective also, we kind of had that with Cal Ripken.
Yeah.
Um, the guy played through anything, selfishly to a point. We argued at times.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, we have that same sort of feeling here. Like he could do no wrong, and he'd always give an autograph or shake a hand or kiss a baby or whatever it was. And he's just beyond loved here.
Well,
Um,
when those guys played, his dad was the manager, his brother
mhm.
was on the team. I mean, it was a family deal, so Baltimore was definitely, one of those teams that just had it, and all those
Yeah,
guys. So it was just something that doesn't happen, and it
yeah,
did, and so it was to me, it was just a cool thing because hell, it was a family affair,
yeah. Yes, it was.
You tell me another time that that's happened, maybe it has. I just never have heard of it. So I think that the Orioles of that time were something else. So
Yeah, yeah. It's unfortunate. The majority of my life, we've stunk, pretty much. But these past maybe decade or so, we once Buck Showalter came in, kind of turned it around. started getting us at least back on the winning side of things, even not the playoffs every year. But uh, I just this year kind of stinks. There was really high hopes, and it's far from over. We're only at the quarter pole,
Yeah,
but it's been hard to watch so far.
right.
Um, and so Mike, back to what you said about the vintage cards. As much as the boys love Bowman and we all love the prospects and everything, I've my entire life have always been to with vintage cards and all my old Orioles and all my old Baltimore Colts and um, it's my true love, honestly, is all that stuff.
I,
I can't afford many Mickey Mantles, but I do have a couple. um, they're I think I did sell one with the guys, but there's a couple that they're never coming out of the box. They're locked in there. So
Well, and that's an honor too. I mean, we've talked about it. I mean, it's just, for Dad to be gone from baseball this long and still have whatever it is that he has. And I think, he started the same year Tops did, and, he just had all those years, and it was just that guy. He was just the guy. And he still is. And so
yeah,
it's just a great thing. And, it's something I hope never quits. So,
I'd love to know what he would think if he knew that the one PSA 10 of his 52 tops would probably go for around $50 million.
well, I don't want to say it, but the thing is, I mean, to just, there's, what is there, three of those, I think, or something like that.
I think there's only one known PSA 10.
There is.
I
Well, is
believe so.
that the owner of the Arizona team, or
Yes,
then
yes. He
the
he has
guy?
a giant collection of Mickey Mantle and
Yeah,
52 tops.
yeah. And, just to see those things, I mean, because you don't see
They're
them. I mean,
gorgeous.
and it's just like that 9.5 sells for 12.6. I mean, geez. I mean, you would
Well,
never think that, and just for something like that to happen. I mean, I don't, hell, maybe a 10 would go for 50 million. I don't know. It's just, it's an amazing thing, and it's a honorable thing. And, you
oh
know,
yeah,
um, it's just, Dad's just that guy. I guess he started the collecting, the collecting deal. So, but he's just, you know, and there's a lot of guys that are like that. So, it's not just Mickey Mantle, but he's definitely, one of the collector's dreams. So,
yeah. Him and the Honus Wagner, are the two Grail cards.
yeah, yeah. And so, and you see a lot of the different sports getting, up like that, because baseball's always been the big sport,
Yeah,
for
it's kind of been the
collecting,
staple for sports cards.
for collecting. And now you're seeing it in basketball and, just different, sports. And it's great. So I think it's cool to see.
Yeah, keeps us busy.
Yeah, I bet, and that's what I'm saying. I want to, get more to see with Michael and them and see how this stuff works, because, now seeing the, like Bobby Witt Jr., that dude's something else, But see, living here in Dallas, I don't get to see Judge, my guy. I'd like to see more Otani and Witt, but I guess I have to get the MLB channel or something because, to see these games because they're not on anymore like they used to be. So,
Yeah,
um,
it's
it's a, sh-
tough.
yeah, it's a shame to not be able to see them like you used to. So,
uh, Jay, want
Yes,
to
sir.
thank you, and you stay busy with the hobby and the business. Michael and Anthony speak so highly of you. Want to thank you for taking a few minutes,
Sure.
and we look forward to doing it again.
Sure, that'd be great. Anytime.
Okay,
Well,
thank you,
thank
Jay.
you
Great
for
meeting you
being
guys.
here. And it was a
Thanks.
pleasure meeting you too.
Yes, sir. Same meeting you.
Yeah, and you take care.
All
Thank you,
right, you
Jay.
guys have a good night.
Thank you.
Michael and Anthony, you were right about Jay.
Yes.
Yep.
I want to tell Danny. I just want to tell you these stories as we go along here. I was just because you were talking about your father and when he passed away, and I reminded my dad of this. I'll never forget. It was 1995 when your dad passed away because we were driving back from Orlando, Florida. My dad drove us down to the Disney World, right?
Yeah,
And on the way back, my father's listening to the radio. My father's a pretty calm, patient person, as you could see.
right.
And what ended up happening was it came on the radio that something was happening, that your father passed away. He's trying to listen to it. And, we're the kids in the back of the
Oh
car
yeah.
yelling. And my dad just goes, shut up. I'm like, oh my goodness. And I'll never forget that. And, you guys, stop talking. And that's when we heard about your father passing away. It's like, just like these things, Danny, just this is why it's so impactful, like what your father has done for the game, but like for people like my dad, like my father idolized your dad. And for my
Yeah,
dad to be such a fan of your dad means the world to me because I've never seen him like that before. Right. So
right.
that's just, in my eyes, my dad's my biggest hero. So the fact
Yeah,
that your dad's his hero, you
exactly.
know, yeah, it means a lot.
Thank you,
Well,
Mike. You're bringing a
Yeah.
tear to my eye, but that's true. It's so true what Michael said, and um, Michael, you'll attest to this, right? You've never seen me wear a jersey or
Never.
something with a player's name on the back. It's just not. It's just not my thing. It's not the way I'm wired. But I did idolize Mickey growing up, and
Yep.
Mike, that's. I remember that now that you mention it, that we were driving and we were going on vacation and the news
It was on
broke.
our way back. It was on our way back from Orlando. I remember everything. It was on our way back from Orlando when it happened. And yeah, I mean, it was just a goes to show because I've never seen you act like that for anything,
yeah.
So the
It's
fact it
true.
just goes to show the volume of like what he meant, and
Well, but we
unbelievable.
we have we have one more guest. We're going to welcome him. All right, it says Big Fred, so we know it's Big Fred.
Big
Is that
Fred.
Danny from New Jersey? Big Fred, how we doing?
There
Did
you
that work?
go.
Yeah.
There
That's
you
good.
go.
Look
I
at
like
me. I'm a tech genius. I'm fantastic. So, so little bit of background. I mean, I'm a Yankee fan for life. I was brought up on the Yanks. But I'm a teacher, high school teacher, history teacher. I've been coaching baseball for what was it, like about 12 years now. Um, I've been selling baseball cards, and I know your brethren from selling cards and stuff like that. But I mean, I've been a bleacher creature and a Yankee fan for really as long as I can remember, and that's the long and the short of it. There is what I would say. That's
Did
what
you?
makes that. That's what gives me my expertise.
There you go. Did your dad? There you go. Anthony, why don't you photobomb me so that
I just want
Danny
to
could
say
see you?
one thing
Go
about
ahead.
Big
Go ahead.
Fred's breaks. This guy is an OG and pioneer in the game. Okay. He outdates the nation. Okay. You want to talk about Danny, you want to talk about the hobby? This is him. All right. And this guy is a big Yankee fan, too. Huge Yankee fan. We love him. Fred, love you, man.
That's the best intro ever. I appreciate it.
There we go.
Well, that's a great thing.
All right. Dan, did your dad get you involved with baseball, and would your dad have any memories of Mickey?
So, oh, absolutely. So, my uncle actually was the one who got me into baseball when I was really, really young. He was a Met fan. I don't like to talk about that too much. I learned really early because my dad's entire side are Yankee fans. So I learned the right way really early. But he got me into it. I actually remember like what really, really got me being a Yankee fan is we would go over Sunday dinners at my grandma's house, like all that every Sunday. The cousins would go over all that, and we would be sitting in front of the TV. What from April until October, watching the Yankees every Sunday too.
So it was one of those staples. Like I remember my older cousins having crushes on Andy Pettit, and I remember like my grandma swooning over Donnie Baseball and his mustache, and like just that's it. Really, pinstripes run through our veins is really the only way to put that.
That is funny, man. Because that's a lot of history,
Yeah, it's about 41 years of history right there for me.
and that's a great thing. Because I mean, I think out of any team, the Yankees, are the team. I mean, of any sport, I don't care who it is, but the Yankees will always be talked about. And so, um, I don't know if we have time. You might, Mike. I wanted to show this Dad's retirement plaque, and I don't know if we can or not. Would it be all right if I
Yeah,
brought it
please do.
over?
Yep, please do.
Okay, I
Absolutely.
just wanted you to see this because it's the plaque they gave him the day he retired.
While he's doing that, um, Danny, uh, what I want to say is that I recall that day is retirement in 1969. He got an ovation for over 11 minutes straight, and it brought a tear to everybody's eye.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
oh yeah.
it's funny because Dad, I saw him on, I don't know, it was some Costas interview he'd done, but he was talking. He goes, yeah, you should try and remember your speech, when you can't get everybody to be quiet. He said he had the worst time remembering, but he did such a beautiful job on his speech. And
Yeah, you know what? And again, I was probably 11 years old when Mickey had that retirement day, and
yeah,
I was listening on the radio. We were coming home from the beach, just like my son Michael had this vivid memory. I'm recalling that, but I'm listening on the radio, and the ovation at Yankee Stadium lasted 11 minutes long. And I thought there was something wrong with my transistor radio. I thought it was like static, like a shh.
yeah, yeah. But
And
you
it
know
was,
what?
but it wasn't. It was cheering for 11 minutes straight.
But for all of his greatest things he ever did, he said that was his main thing because he'd always say, he goes, I just wish every person, in the world could feel that just one time because he said it was just something else. He would get goosebumps just thinking of it.
Well,
But
I'm gonna call him Big Fred because we got two Danny's in the room. So to keep it straight, we're gonna call him Big Fred. Big Fred, what Danny's referring to is just so amazing. They have this retirement day, and who comes out to retire his number? Now, Danny, Big Fred, when you think about numbers that are retired with the Yankees, like what number isn't retired, right? We got like everyone, but back then, listen to this. I mean, Mickey's retirement day, there were there was Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig. Those were the players that were retired, and that was it. And they never, for whatever reason, Big Fred, they never got around to DiMaggio. They never got around to DiMaggio.
isn't
So
that weird?
right. So who comes walking out with the number 7 plaque but Joe DiMaggio? And they said, oh, by the way, we're going to retire number 5 also. So Mickey had the greatest line, and it spoke to why everybody loved Mickey. He said, shucks, he says, if you're going to retire my number and number 5, just make sure you hang the number 7 just a little bit lower than the number 5, because he deserves a little higher ranking. And I mean, that's what it was all about. And I mean, that's why he was so beloved. And I don't know if any of that story, Big Fred, if you know what I'm talking about, but if not, you could find it on YouTube.
Yeah, you can
Oh,
look at it on
I
YouTube.
absolutely do. Yeah, I absolutely do. I mean, again, being a history teacher, I like to say that I'm a little bit of a historian of the Yanks too, and I know a lot of the stuff that happened a little bit before my time. I'm not dating anybody on that, but I know from everything that I've ever heard about Mick, he always said that it was Joe that paved the way, and he always felt like a little bit, not necessarily in his shadow, but had to live up to that number 5, because he was the one who filled in as he was coming in when it was younger. Not exactly two ships passing in the night, but something similar. And I understand where that's coming from. It's so cool that they retired both of them on the same day. Really deservingly so, because their careers were so intertwined.
Well, and when Dad first started with the Yankees, could have been before his first game or whatever. Anyway, he used to, because Stan Musial was his idol, because they were so close from where he lived to St. Louis. Well, and he said it a few times after he became a Yankee, and they called him in and they said, no, they said, your idol is Joe DiMaggio. You can't say Stan Musial anymore. And so, but Dad didn't have any problem because DiMaggio was one of his idols, And so, I mean, shit, who wouldn't have had, think of how many idols someone had back though. I mean, look at the names you had in that era. I mean, just think of it. I mean, it's amazing. And so, but he really, you know, those years with the Yankees were just something else, man. But that day when they retired his number he said that was the best day he ever had. So,
Big Fred, I want to ask you a question because, in a way, we're living through history. Just like you hear these old stories, or you hear your dad or your grandfather telling you stories about DiMaggio and everything like this. You'll be telling your kids, your grandkids like this about, Aaron Judge when you think about it. As a diehard Yankee fan, as you are and I am, we live in the moment of, very much so. How could we lose a game to the Colorado Rockies? Fire Cashman. We're like so much wrapped up in whatever in the day to day. But when you stop and think about what they've been able to accomplish this year, Big Fred, when you think about it and you say to yourself, you got to give kudos to Brian Cashman for this year. You have to give kudos to the scouts, whether it's the amateur scouts that drafted these kids, or whether the international scouts who get a guy like the Martian, or whether it's, there's a lot of aspects to it. But let's just talk for a moment, if we can, about Aaron Judge and his pursuit of the Triple Crown, because we all know it's a very short list of Triple Crown winners. The last one to win the Triple Crown of anyone was 2012, Miguel Cabrera, when he was on Detroit. Before that, you have to go all the way back to 67, Carl Yastrzemski. 66 before that, Frank Robinson. And before that, Mickey Mantle. The last Yankee to do it was Mickey Mantle in 1956. Next year will be 70 years. And Big Fred, again, we're living through history. It's only a third of the season, but he's flirting with 400 in terms of batting average, which is probably the hardest box to check off. So, I mean, it's just amazing. Your thoughts on that?
I mean, first of all, watching him every game is unbelievable. And it has been since he started in 2016, but really 2017. And watching him in the home run races that he's been a part of and just constantly shattering expectations with that season after season. This year really is no different, because he's on pace to about a mid, I think it's 55, 56 he's on pace for right now. And we all know he's good for a tear, so that might change real soon. When it comes to the batting average this year, I've never been so involved in every single at bat of honestly being excited to see if he can keep up 400. He's at 395 right now, I think, going into tonight's game.
Yeah.
And it's unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, he goes 2 for 4 tonight, and he's back up to 397, 398. And it's just talking about batting average in an age where batting average doesn't matter. And as a baseball purist and as a baseball coach, that makes me sick. But that's another story.
It does matter.
It sure does. It more than anything. I'm sorry. On base percentage is really important and all that, but batting average is important because not only do you get on, but you demoralize a pitcher in the entire process. Yeah. And that's the mental game that is baseball. So I really, watching him keep up flirting with 400 is just so exciting. Can he do it through June? I don't know. I mean, even if he's at 370 by the end of June when school ends, I'll be ecstatic at that point and really confident that he can beat anybody when it comes to batting average. Because again, who's gonna flirt with him right now? What do you got? I mean, Goldie's only keeping up with him because he's keeping up with him. So I don't really know if anybody else is gonna flirt with him that close. And honestly, I think he might do it. I really think he might do it. The competition, I mean, at least because, again, baseball's a long season and things happen and all that. But the competition that he has right now, like Jacob Wilson's a rookie. Do you really think he's going to be able to keep up his pace, nipping at his heels? I'm sure he could do it for a little while, but you're talking about in the shadow of Aaron Judge. And that's a big shadow for physically, figuratively, whatever. It's a big shadow. And then Cal Raleigh, maybe does the dumper have it in him to hit 60 and outpace Judge with the home runs? If he does, September is going to be so much fun to watch. So I'm just excited about baseball, and I love the Yankees. And this is just a triple crown chase. Like, let's go.
Can I say one thing? Yeah. Don't get Big Fred started on launch angles, Dad. He's with you on that. He's with you, Danny. He's with both of you guys on that. He's thinking he's on par with the same thought process.
Well, I could tell he's astute, and Big Fred, I would say, if you are interested in any of my thoughts, if you go over to the Yes Network, I've written a number of columns for the Yankees. Most of it revolves around pitching. I wrote back in December about Max Fried, etc. But what you're saying, and I agree wholeheartedly, and so does Danny. We're both old school, so there's no question about that. I just want to mention this because love the passion, Big Fred, and you touched on a lot of things, and you made a lot of excellent points. What I want to say is that Danny Mantle, his favorite player is Aaron Judge, and I just want to point out, Big Fred, that like Mickey Mantle, as idolized as he is by the fan base, he's even more looked up to by his teammates in the locker room. Everyone says that about Aaron Judge. And then, Big Fred, let me ask you, how refreshing, how just, the cherry on top of the perfect ball player, Aaron Judge, that every time he hits a home run or hits a ball hard, whether it's a tape measure shot or no matter what, that guy puts the bat down, no flipping the bat, and runs his ass off every single time out of the batter's box. Big Fred, what do you think?
That's the old school in me too, and I'm all about the fundamentals. I'm all about acting like you've been there before, and there's nothing more menacing than just a straight-faced rounding the bases, stepping on home plate, and then celebrating with your teammates when you get in the dugout. And once you get into the dugout, it's all good, and popcorn's flying or bubblegum's flying or whatever it is that they're doing this year.
That's all it's about.
Absolutely, because that's fun once you get there, but he's not about showing anybody up. He's all about just doing the right thing.
Run him around and do it,
Yep. He's such
just like the Mick, just like Mickey. Big Fred, when I was a kid growing up, I caught the tail end of Mickey Mantle's career. So kind of like the downside when he played his whole career injured. But I mean, at the end, like in 67, he hit his 500th home run on Mother's Day, and he literally limped around the bases. He was still hitting the ball all over the ballpark, but he limped around the bases, and he could not wait to get around the bases. He put his head down, almost like he was embarrassed, like he did not want to show up the pitcher. Okay. And for that reason, everyone loved Mickey Mantle, not only his teammates, but the opposition, because he never showed anyone up. Quite the opposite. It was, again, he put his head down. He wanted to get back into the dugout as quickly as he could. I don't know if you were on or if it was one of our previous guests when Danny gave this stat. Big Fred, never going to believe this. His entire career, he got hit like 12 times, hit by pitch. for his entire career because pitchers just that even pitchers respected him. They wouldn't want to him. You know what? Big Fred, I got to get your opinion on this. Juan Soto, listen to this. Plan B has worked out great for us. But you want to know something? When you look at Soto with the swag and with the shimmy and all of that, part of that, the fans eat it up. But when you're a pitcher on the mound and he's staring you down for just taking a walk or just taking a pitch, man, that's a little tough, no?
Oh, I don't don't get me started on Soto, but it's again it's the yin and the yang really it's like apples and oranges when you're talking about Judge and Soto. And it was so interesting to watch last year when you had them back to back and they both fed off each other's energy really in a very positive way. And probably for Soto, one of the best seasons he's ever going to have because he was led to that extent. But
yeah,
I just that flash, that glitz, that kind of attitude, fans will love it. It's great for, Instagram. It's great for TikTok. It's great for like the quick, instant gratification of 2025. But that's not what you want to be remembered for. What baseball is all about history. Baseball is all about stats. Baseball is all about the legend of the game, and way more than really any other professional sport. Maybe tennis, you could argue, maybe golf, but it's outside of the big ones. And when you're talking about the history of the game, people remember your numbers, people remember your consistency, and inside the game. And correct me if I'm wrong on this one, Danny. People remember how you were treated and how people treated you, or excuse me, how you were treated by them. That's the right way to put it. And Judge treats everybody with respect. He's shaking hands. He's got his chin up, all that kind of stuff. And he never shows anybody up. Soto, he'll be great for a couple of years. He'll have a couple of great seasons, but he'll be up there with and no offense to him, like the Jason Giambis of the world in the history of the game, where it's a flash in the pan kind of thing. And yeah, you were great for a minute, but you're not one of the great ones because the great ones act a certain way. And there's a reason for that.
And they know it, and that's just all there is to it. But, Judge is my favorite player and for good reason. He reminds me so much. And I just wish my dad was here to witness him because he would feel the exact same way. And there probably wasn't too many guys like that. I mean, think of the size, number one, I mean, certainly when Dad played, because when Dad played, he was considered one of the biggest guys, and he was, 6 foot, 200 and, 2 pounds or something, and that was huge back then, right? And so, but to see a guy like that on field and run and stuff like he does, I mean, it's amazing, man. I'm telling you, you're looking at something that we're never going to see, or I won't anyway. But I'm just saying, it's some amazing stuff, and I think my dad would love it.
Well said.
I mean, I couldn't agree more for being, I'm watching for 40 years. I couldn't agree more. There are generational players. He's like a century player. Once in a century, a guy like this comes around. And
when you hear team players, that's the dude, and that's all there is to it. And he's the guy, man. And if he stays on this track, I mean, shit, it's scary. I mean, no telling where he's going to end up,
Big Fred,
Right.
it's going to be a pleasure the rest of this season because we just waxed poetic about Aaron Judge, and it's going to unfold. And again, this is potentially history in the making where you'll be telling your kids and your grandkids and all of that. And at the same time, we have to give kudos to the Yankee organization because we lost Soto to free agency. There could have been a drag on the team for that reason alone, Big Fred. There could have been a drag on the team because we lost the World Series, and in a way, we were embarrassed in the World Series because of our sloppiness. We could have been a drag on the team when Garrett Cole goes down with a season-ending injury, Tommy John surgery. Could have been a drag on the team. Luis Heel, and we can go on and on, right? He was rookie of the year. But to the Yankees' credit, Plan B was an excellent Plan B. And now we're still in May, and the Yankees have a 7-game lead in the American League East. That's the
Yeah.
largest lead that they've had in the month of May since 1998. And that was a very special year, Big Fred.
Exactly.
that that year, just saying that year gives me chills. Like I was going into school, like the Yankees were the Yankees. Like when you're talking about pinstripes, those pinstripes were thick, and it was just, I love hearing that. I mean,
Yeah.
again, I know baseball is a game of numbers, and it's all about the history, like we're talking about. It just gives me chills thinking about it. But I know it's a long season and things happen, and knock on wood, we keep this pace up. But it's a thrill to watch him every single day. And I couldn't agree with you more that there was some addition by subtraction with the Soto trade, but also there was some addition by addition with filling that in with Max Fried and with Belly. And really, you could even go back to Trent Grisham staying in the trade that we picked Soto up in. He has been unbelievable. And I'll be the first one to say last year, I was one of the boo birds out there when he was batting 167. But this year, I can't do anything but say, wow, he looks like Reggie reincarnate. It is fantastic. Physically, like at the stick, he's just doing some big things and playing a really nice outfield. He made a beautiful play last night, diving play in center field. It was fantastic. So it's just, I like the direction. I couldn't agree more that I love what the Yankees as a whole have done. And that's a lot coming from me because I can be very critical about them. I've been very critical about Boone in the past. I've been very critical about Cashman. And I feel like any Yankee fan, we're very critical when we don't win 162 games. And I know that's unrealistic expectation, but that's what it means when you put on the pinstripes. And some guys can take it, some guys can't.
Well, you know what? That's
My dad had his share of booze, believe me.
Everyone loved Mickey, but you want to know something? Just as you said, no, no one is immune to booze, etc., like that. So no question about that. But Big Fred, you're 100% right, and everything that you said. I listened very carefully and I'm very impressed. And the fact that you're a coach, the fact that you have, you have baseball, running through your veins, you bleed pinstripe, etc., like that. The fact that you understand the importance of batting averages, the fact that you understand that pitching wins championships, and that defense is a big part of pitching, and you have to support it. Just like the play that Grisham made last night. You don't think that Carlos Rodon appreciated that? When Danny has mentioned this many times, the analytics has gone off the rails with some of these statistics that they create, whether it's WAR, which is one thing, but some of them are just they just are subjective at this point, not objective, and you shouldn't be that way. And defensive metrics, like for example, I'll give you example. Max Fried, when he's on the mound, there's a disproportionate amount of ground balls hit to third base. If the third baseman in the first inning botches a ground ball, that could lead to a long inning. That could lead to Max Fried being out of the game by the fifth inning instead of the seventh. It's not quantified and correctly when it comes to analytics. They don't have their arms around that. They're good with other stuff, but the defensive metrics, not there. So there's so much nuance to the game, and you got to watch the games. The stats are great. The stats are fantastic. We all like them. We all love them. It should be something that you refer to, but not only to watch the games, because that's what it is. Over my shoulder in the background, Big Fred, I don't know if you could see it, but we talked about collectibles tonight. Okay, so that's my favorite collectible. And the reason why I love it so much, it's Mickey Mantle It's Whitey Ford and Billy Martin with all original autographs. And the thing that I love most about it, it was given to me as a gift by Danny Mantle. So I thank him forever. There's no price tag that I could put to it. Big Fred, if I had to ask you, do you have anything of your collectibles that are just you couldn't even put a price tag to?
So like I'd said, my uncle was the one who got me into baseball originally. And he's actually the one who got me into baseball cards too. He was a big collector, but more of comic books. But when he found out that I liked baseball cards, I was about 7 or 8 years old. And he gave me a screw down case of Hank Aaron 1960 or 1960 Hank Aaron. And that card. So my uncle's not with us anymore. And that's one of the things in my collection that you could offer me $1 million for, and you're gonna have to pry that out of my cold dead hands, because something like that, it's not just baseball. And I love Hank Aaron too. I have a nice collection of his that I put together myself, but it's not just about that. And that's why baseball, and I'm sure everybody in this chat knows right now, it's a family game. It's about a father and son thing. It's about an uncle and a nephew thing. It's the stuff that you remember that makes you keep going back to the ballpark. It's the nostalgia of the game. It's the history of the game. And that's why I love that card. I also have a Joe Morgan that he gave to me, and neither of those cards are going anywhere because of where it came from and what they're about. You know what I mean?
What it means, that's the main
Mhm.
thing. And, if something about Hank Aaron, I mean, Dad always, he loves Willie. Him and Willie were great friends, even though everybody thought they hated each other, they would laugh about it. But he always said, he goes, Hank in his mind was the all around best ball player he had ever seen. So he loved Hank Aaron, but of course Willie Mays and Dad, I like to say Dad was the greatest one-legged player ever, not to mention the greatest switch hitter, So um, the thing is, it's just and those guys that's what I meant by they were all so close and they didn't have to be on the same teams. They were just friends. And so it was just really I don't know. You hate to say it's a cliche, oh, it was different times, but maybe it was. I don't know. But they were all just so close. And I think they respected each other so much. So that's a lot to do with it. So
And Danny, we respect you. We thank you. I mean, I said to you, we're gonna do an hour. We did 2 hours, so there's going to be some editing that Anthony's going to have to do to put it on the TV show. But then we're gonna put some other clips out there, etc. It's been an absolute pleasure. And Michael and Anthony from the Nation, I want to thank you for putting together such a fine group of callers. We have Big Fred, you hit it out of the ballpark, and your predecessors that were on before you. It made it an absolute pleasure for me. So I want to again, Michael.
okay.
Hopefully, you enjoyed it. You put together a great group, you and Anthony, and
Yeah.
I enjoyed
Y'all
every minute thoroughly.
great job as usual, guys. And
Thank you.
we love y'all. And, I just really appreciate being on. And it's so fun just to talk BS, just with other guys that you never talk to. And it's just fun. So thank y'all very much.
And Danny, it's also heartwarming to you and to me to see the younger generation, and there's a continuance, and that's really what it is, because it's a father and son um, game. Big Fred, where are you a teacher? Where in New Jersey?
Yeah, so I'm over in Bergen County. I teach in Saddlebrook High School. That's where I've coached also, and I coach at Saddle River Day School also, which is another school in Bergen County. So
That's great.
I'm over there. But let me say thank you for this opportunity. This was a lot of fun and an honor to talk to you too, Danny. It was an
Thank
absolute pleasure.
thank you
I,
guys
I
very
want to say
much.
one thing. I wasn't lying when I told you Big Fred knows his stuff. I mean, he's a big Yankee fan, Danny, Dad. I'm telling you. So, You're the man, Dan.
Well,
Big Fred.
I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
have to get. I want to get on see what your show's about as well. So
Danny, they would, the nation would go, they would go crazy. So we're
yeah,
gonna make sure that you join. And here's the thing, Big Fred could tell you. I mean, there's people that join just in the chat. So just to see it, you don't have to say anything if you don't want to, just to
yeah.
kind of see how it works, by all means. But I know Dad and I and my brother.
Well, you see me, I love to talk, so
Yeah, we
you
got to make
probably
this
won't
happen.
keep me quiet too long.
No,
Yeah.
we want it to happen. And we also want to make sure that next time that we come down to Dallas with the card shows, that
Oh,
we'll.
please do. Next time you guys are here, man, you got to look me up, man.
I will. Ain't no,
We'll
no
do
question
some.
about it.
And
Yeah.
when Danny comes to New York, we'll take him to a nice Italian restaurant. So that'll,
Yeah, I need
That's
some
it.
good Italian
yeah,
food.
that's it. That's for
It.
sure.
That's the answer right there.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, it's been an absolute blast. It's been a pleasure. And I want to, just want to thank everybody. And we're going to do it again. When we do this type of show, I know, Danny wants to, join you guys on the nation, but
Yep.
Danny and I are going to do a lot more of these type shows where we record and just connect with the fans, because it just recharges our batteries and it just feels so good. So that's
Yeah,
it.
and people really love to reminisce. And, like we said, Dad means so much to the collectibles, and it just means a lot to us for sure. So, I just love doing it. So,
I say one thing. We come across
yeah.
He means a lot to every aspect of the game.
we come across a lot of cards, a lot of stuff, a lot of things. This is one of the coolest things I've ever seen or come across. It's signed Walt, Ford, Billy Martin, and Mickey Mantle, triple signed. This is incredible. This is a
Oh, yeah, it's a beautiful piece,
And it's
coolest piece of collectible we've ever.
and it's not for sale. And
And
I
it's
will
not for
I
sale.
will forever, because I can because Danny
going to the
Danny takes
highest
it.
bidder.
That's it.
No, never. It
and
stays
and
there.
and
That's
Big
it.
Fred, in
Yeah.
closing, keep up the passion, and this is going to be hopefully a season that keeps us entertained and will be in our memory banks for many years to come. Hopefully you enjoyed yourself, and we're going to have you on again.
Well,
Oh, I would love it. I would love it. It was an absolute pleasure. And again, thank you so much for the opportunity, because I love talking Yanks and I love talking trash. It's fantastic.
You hit it out of the ballpark. All right.
yeah,
Thank
it's
you,
been
everybody.
been a
some rest. The
pleasure
Yankee
for
game is
everybody.
on the West Coast. It's going to start any minute, so everybody run to your TVs. But thank you. Most importantly, our special guest, Danny Mantle. Thank you so much
thank
for
you.
joining us tonight. Okay.
Thank you
Good
guys
night,
very
everybody.
much.
Thank you.
Thank
It's
you.
been a pleasure
Yeah.
seeing all y'all.